even through our suffering, we can always find God. And labor is, I mean, physically it's challenging. I would argue that it's a little bit of suffering. And so is motherhood. And so just finding that piece of joy and faithfulness in him throughout the experiences is what he's taught me. It's like no matter what, like he's still there.
Hi, I'm Kayla Heater, follower of Jesus, wife and mother of 5 children, Christian childbirth educator and doula, and your host of the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, where we share God-centered birth stories, evidence-based birth education, and our pursuit of surrendering our birth plans to God. Let's get started. Hi, everybody. I hope you had a very happy Easter. I hope you enjoyed celebrating with your families, going to church, for Resurrection Sunday, basking in the gift that is the resurrection of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I'm actually recording this ahead of time, but we plan on having family over to our house on Sunday afternoon after church. And my mom always does an Easter egg hunt for the kids, which is awesome because when we were little, her mom always did an Easter egg hunt for us at her house. Lots of great memories from there. We do Easter baskets, but we open them on Saturday, the day before. And because Sunday is just always more church focused. We always hide them and the kids have to go find them, and it's always a good and fun time. So beautiful weather, at least where we are. So I hope you all have enjoyed Easter with your family. If you were on spring break last week, I hope it was great. If you're on spring break this week, I hope you have a good time. I know lots of people are taking trips or just like spending extra time outside, play dates, playgrounds, hikes, all the great stuff. Beach for the lucky few that are at the beach. That'll be me in a few weeks. Excited about that. So anyways, I just hope you all had a wonderful Easter and are enjoying your spring. All right, let's jump into this week's episode. Kelsey and Jesse were blessed to get pregnant right away. Although if Jesse had it his way, they would have had a honeymoon baby. Then, working in an office of midwives, Kelsey was able to get her first-time pregnancy questions answered daily and in person. When the time came to give birth, though, she was left feeling a little underprepared for the unmedicated birth she had hoped to have. Throw in an extremely strong epidural, a panic attack, and the dreaded pitocin, and things just didn't go as she imagined. For her second birth, she stepped up her preparation game by taking a more in-depth and faith-based childbirth class, as well as preparing physically and spiritually, all of which greatly impacted her second labor, where she was able to go unmedicated. Tune in to hear Kelsey's full story and her advice for moms who are in the thick of it with postpartum and motherhood in general. Well, welcome to another episode of Surrendered Birth Stories. I am your host, Kayla Heater, and I have Kelsey with me today. So, Kelsey, take a minute, introduce yourself, tell us about you, your family, your life. Let us get to know you.
Yeah, so my name is Kelsey Hogue. I'm married to Jesse. I'm a mom of 2, and I own a wedding coordinating business in Hall River, North Carolina. So we are kind of in the throes of 2 littles, plus my business, plus his full-time job. So we're just living a great life.
Wow. I guess I didn't realize you were in the wedding coordinating business.
Mm-hmm.
My sister got married last year, and I felt like I was the wedding coordinator. So I'm like, this just feels so stressful to me.
Well, it's not super stressful for me, I guess, because the goal is to take the stress from the bride.
Yeah.
And once you plan enough big events, you kind of know what to expect and how to roll through it and take the stress away from the bride. And it's a lot of fun. And it's specifically in the ceremony piece, like just seeing how 2 become 1. It always takes me back to when we got married. So it's always really sweet.
Oh, Well,
Yeah.
cool. I didn't know you did that. That's really
Yeah.
fun. All right, so take us back. Take us back to your first pregnancy.
hmm
How long had y'all been married? Did you plan it? Did you not plan it? Tell us the story.
So we got married in June of 21, and he really wanted a honeymoon baby. But I successfully convinced him just to give us a little bit of a gap of marriage. So I think we made it like 8 whole months.
Hey, well,
But
that's something.
yeah, it was something. We were older when we got married, so we knew that it wasn't going to take us long. We were 27 and 28 when we got married, so we were like wanting to have babies soon, but not like super soon. And actually, I have never been on a hormonal birth control before. Um,
Good.
when I was in high school, I saw a lot of the effects from girls getting on it, and I didn't want that. And then I learned more about like my cycle, and I was pretty much like to the T. I could nail down it within 36 to 48 hours. Um, so when we did get pregnant, I like knew pretty soon. I was like, I'm 2 days late. Like that does not happen. So the day we found out, actually, I was at work and I came home early that day because I just wasn't feeling well, and came home, took a nap, and then we had friends to go or plans to go out with friends that night. And I felt better around dinner time, so we still went out. And then we were leaving, and I was like, Jesse, I really think I'm pregnant. Like, I should have started my period the last like 2 or 3 days. And his eyes lit up and he was so excited. So at 11 o'clock at night, we are driving from tiny little gas station to tiny little gas station trying to find a pregnancy test. Took him like 3 stops to find one. And so overpaid for it, got home, took the test, it was positive. Then we like celebrated at like midnight, went to bed, woke up, and he was like, okay, I'm going down the road to the grocery store to get a real test because we didn't think it was real, I guess. And so I took another test that morning. And again, it was like a bright positive. So we were like, okay, great. Well, here we are. We're pregnant. So,
That is like such a first time mom thing. I can't tell you how many girls or women will text me and be like, okay, so I took this Dollar Tree test and it said it was positive, but we're going to go
mhm,
take, a digital test just to make sure. And I'm like, no,
yeah.
no, 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 no. If the Dollar Tree test says it's positive, you are absolutely pregnant. I was like,
hmm
it's the other way around. If it says it's negative, like that's when you question it. Like that's when you go get another test as if you get a negative result. But if you get a positive result, you are pregnant no matter what test you took.
Yeah. And I was telling him that I was like, because I worked at an OB office at that time. And I was like, I know they just use the little strips. Like,
Little
what we got
dipsticks.
is what we
Yep.
got. And he was like, no, we need like a legit one. I was like,
Confirmation.
okay. So I went with it and we got another one. It was really cute too because we went back later and I guess the clerk that had seen him buy the pregnancy test was like, I need to know, like, do you have the answer? So a random clerk at the grocery store was the first person to find out that we were pregnant.
Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, what a blessed soul. He got to
I
know
know.
before anyone else.
hmm
Wow. Okay. So then how did that pregnancy go? First baby, first pregnancy, how did it go?
So the first pregnancy was pretty much what I expected it to be. Um, so I was pretty sick the first, 12, 13 weeks. I was trying the B6 combo. That helped a good bit. Um, but I definitely lost some weight the first trimester, but around that 13, 14 week mark, it really got better. The
Good.
sickness went away, that boost of energy came back. It felt pretty like normal. There was one weird thing in the middle. Um, what is it? Choleostasis? Is that the itchy thing?
Pups?
I'm not sure. I just know
Oh,
that there was like an itchy something that's like not good in pregnancy. And I was scared that I had it because my feet were like super itchy and like rashy looking.
uh-huh.
But I took all the blood tests and the OB was like, "No, you're fine. Like it's not nothing. It's probably just your swelling and
Your
then your feet
skin's
are not used to
stretching.
it."
Yeah.
Yeah. So after about 2 weeks of itchy feet, I was fine. But it was like a really tough a really weird and tough 2 weeks because everyone talks about like stretch marks and sickness and, all the like normal pregnancy, not like the random side effects of
Oh, yeah.
itchy feet. So,
Itchiness is real, especially in first pregnancies when your body's stretching like that for the first time.
hmm
I had the most itchiness with my first pregnancy, and I would wake up. Man, I forgot about this until you just said that. I would
hmm
wake up scratching, like I would wake up to myself
yes.
scratching, and I had scabs like on my
hmm
wrists and on my ankles, like
Yep.
like my joints. I'm like, whoa, I am like scratching myself like until I'm bleeding
hmm
in my sleep from being so
Yeah.
itchy. And of course
That's
my
exactly it.
belly was too.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And then we did too. We got like, oh, the blood tests and everything. They're like, no, 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 you're negative for everything. Everything's fine. I'm like,
hmm
okay.
So I'm just gonna be itchy. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, overall, it was a pretty normal pregnancy.
Okay. So who did you go to for your care?
So I actually worked at the practice that I got my care for, um, which kind of was funny. So I took the job in like early February, and then like 3 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. So it was kind of like, hey, thanks for hiring me. By the way, I'm pregnant. Um, but they had a ton of midwives. They had two OBs. They were connected to a local hospital. Everyone I had known had gone there from my area, so it was pretty much like a trusted spot, and I feel like I got lucky because since I worked there, like, my chair was really close to the midwives, so I would just kind of, like, grab them and be like, "Hey, this just happened today. Weird, not weird, like, what do you think?" And they would usually be like, "Oh, it's totally normal. If it keeps happening, let me know." So it felt more of a personal than like an actual like hospital setting. Um, so that was nice to
Yeah.
know that.
That you would be seeing a midwife every day at work.
Yes, exactly. And it felt like so safe to be like, okay, well, the office is connected to the hospital. So if like something crazy happens, like they could just literally wheel me down the
Down the
hallway and
hall.
I'll be in the hospital. So that was really good. And also just knowing like the midwife's schedule was really nice too. To be like, okay, if we go into labor today, like this person's on call or that person. So it was weirdly comforting.
So, did you have a vision or like a certain birth plan or desire for like what kind of birth you wanted to have?
Yeah, so I definitely wanted to go unmedicated. I didn't have a preference of hospital or not at that time. Um, my mom, biological mom, had all four of us in the hospital, and so it just was like, okay, we're going to deliver in a hospital. But I knew I wanted to go unmedicated, and Jesse and I were really trying to go forward with that the best we could, but we didn't put as much effort into it as we thought we did looking back. For example, we took a birth class. We took it through a hospital, but we took it at like 34 weeks pregnant. And I don't think that was enough time looking back because we were sitting there and all the other couples were sharing and they're like, oh, well, we're due. This is like mid October and we're due, in February, we're due in January, we're due in March. And we're like, we're due next month in November. Okay, maybe we did not plan this out appropriately. And I had other mom friends who had talked about, the risks of pitocin and epidurals and things like that. But I kind of just knew like the surface level of everything, not necessarily the deep intricacies of it.
So, we're going for unmedicated, but in hindsight, we didn't maybe prepare as much as we could
hmm
have. So, how does labor start and when does it start? Or does it start?
It kind of got a big push, I guess you could say. Um, so my due date was on the Sunday before Thanksgiving, and I had my 40-week appointment the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and intentionally scheduled it for like the last appointment of the day so I could, clock out, do my appointment, and then go home. And at that appointment, I was 40 and 3. I was tired of being pregnant. Um, And I literally was just like, please, like, sweep my membranes. Like, let's get something started. And so that's like what Jesse and I had talked about it before, but that's what we did at that appointment.
How dilated were
And
you?
like one, like
Okay.
barely anything.
Just enough for them to sweep you.
Yeah, just enough. Which I'm glad because if I, they can't sweep you if you're not dilated at all. So I was like, okay, well, at least I was something. Um, and then let's see. So I got them swept, went home. She was like, rest, you're going to start feeling crampy. You'll probably have a little bit of like bleeding, if, start bleeding more and more, just come back in, all of those things. Kind of gave me the rundown. So we went home, we started hanging out. I was like trying to make sure I was sitting on a birth ball, um, not like sitting back, all of those things. And for some reason, we decided it was a smart idea to stay up till like 10:30. Like we were super excited. I had the impression of like, okay, my membranes are swept. We're totally going to have this baby the next day. Um, and we did not. So Thursday morning around like 2:30 a.m., I wake up and I'm having cramps and contractions, and they're like coming on pretty fast. They started out like every like 5 to 6 minutes. And so in my brain and in the little bit of knowledge I had, I was like, oh my gosh, like I dilated so quick in so much time. And
You're
so
rolling your
bad.
eyes now.
I'm like looking back at myself, I'm like, you had nothing. You knew nothing. Um, but around like 5:30, 6 o'clock, we drove to the hospital. They checked us out and she was like, yep, you're just a two. I'm really sorry, but why don't you go labor at home and come back? Which was fine. Like, I kinda figured I've heard so many first-time moms kinda getting, like, turned away the first time just
Mhm.
because they aren't so dilated, so it wasn't super defeating.
I'm surprised
Came
you weren't holding out for a turkey dinner considering it was Thanksgiving Day. I'm, like, sitting here thinking, like, maybe you don't wanna have this baby until after you get to eat your big meal.
Well, I thought that, but I was so sh like, I thought I would be that way, but I was so sure that we were gonna have that baby that day, so I was like I wanted to meet her and everything like that. So we went back home, labored at home for a little bit, then around, like, 11ish, I'm just like, "Okay, we've got to get back to the hospital." I was not good with coping with the contractions, I was tired because 'cause I'd already been up for 9 plus hours. So we started to drive to the hospital and I actually fell asleep in the car, took like a 20-30 minute nap, and he just kept driving. And so when I woke up and I was like, why aren't we at the hospital? He's like, you were asleep. I didn't know what to do. So he like looped around on the interstate, got back to the hospital. We checked in and then they gave me around like maybe 12:31, they gave me like an IV drug, just because the midwife was like, "You're exhausted. Like, just let's get you a nap and let's just get you to have some form of rest." And I was like, "That
Wait,
sounds great."
did they admit you then?
Yeah.
Okay, so how dilated were you when you went in the second time after your big
Well,
nap in the car?
well, I knew the midwife that was on duty, and my husband was texting her. So she pretty much was like, "Once you come back in, I'll just send you straight up. Like, you don't have to go through triage again." So I
Okay,
kind of got like a free pass.
nice.
Yeah, and I think by that time I was maybe a three. Like, I still
Okay.
hadn't progressed a ton. Um, but then, yeah, so I took like another nap in the hospital. And after that, we tried walking around, we tried moving, but I just was not coping with the contractions very well. So I finally broke down and got the epidural at like, oh, I don't know, probably like 4, 5 o'clock.
Mhm.
And I thought, like, okay, well, this is great, not going to feel anything or like, the pain will go away. And it did for a little bit. I remember we were sitting up and playing cards, watching some football, that kind of thing. So I was like enjoying it in one sense. But then a few hours later, I could feel the contractions getting stronger,
Mhm.
especially after. So they put the epidural in And then we waited a couple hours, and the midwife was like, "You're still not progressing very well. Let's break your water." And Jesse actually questioned it, thinking about it now. He was like, "Are you sure that's what we want to do?" Like, da da da. And I was like, "She says it's going to bring the baby faster, so let's do it." And he was like, "Okay." And like within like 30 seconds of us having that conversation, she was like breaking the water. So it was like kind of like a triangle conversation. So yeah, she broke my water, and then it started, I could feel the contractions again. They say with an epidural, you'll feel the pressure but not the pain.
Right.
I was definitely feeling both. And from my perspective, it had moved because one side, like my right leg was completely numb, and I like couldn't feel it, couldn't move it, but my left leg I could kind of keep mobile, and I was feeling the contractions again. And a couple hours later, they're like, "Okay, well, you're only out of 5. Like, we really should try to speed this up." And I want to say this is like it's sometime during the night, like 7, 8 o'clock. I don't know the timestamps. I intentionally like ignored the clock as much as possible. Um, but I want to say it was like post dinner, so it was like 7, 8 o'clock. They wanted to start me on pitocin, and I remember talking to the midwife. I was like, "If we're gonna start pitocin, like I'm gonna need another epidural because I can already feel these contractions now, and I know what I know of pitocin. They're gonna come on faster, stronger, more intense, and I'm not really feeling that right now." So they came in and they did an epidural and they put it up a little bit higher, and, like, it was so strong. Like, it was like a spinal tap. I've never had a spinal tap, but it felt like a spinal tap because I could not move anything at that point, and it was terrifying.
Oh
Like,
man.
I had legitimately had a panic attack in the hospital room. Like, I was like, "Jesse, I can't feel my legs," like, "Da, da, da," like, I was, like, freaking out, weeping, and this poor nurse, I know she meant good, but she was like, "This is good, you won't feel the pain anymore," and I, like, snapped up and yelled at her. I was like, "I'd rather feel my legs,"
Aw.
and she never came back in the room, and to this day, I feel really terrible about it. But I'm
Oh man.
sure I'm not like I doubt I was the worst person, to her, but I feel terrible. So yeah, that was probably the worst part of the labor was that
Was the
panic attack.
super strong epidural gave
Mhm.
you a panic attack?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I've never had a panic attack before in my life, so like when my heart started fluttering and like I was like, you know, just freaking out, I was like this is not normal. It was stressful.
I assume you eventually calmed down. And
Yes.
then did you get some rest or
Yeah, so that I think that happened between like, like I said, like 8ish, 9, somewhere around there. I eventually just like fell asleep, and they every 30 to 45 minutes they would come in and kind of like rotate me
Mhm.
with the peanut ball.
Mhm.
And my husband was there. He pretty much had to do most of the work because I was like dead weight, and the little like nurses that they had were just like teeny tiny, like little 100-pound girls, and I was like, "You're not gonna be able to lift my body."
My dead weight
So
9-month pregnant body.
exactly, so I felt bad for them and Jesse because I was like, "You're doing all of the work." But around midnight the night nurse came in and checked me, and she was like, "Okay, great, you're at 10 centimeters." And she said, "Let's practice push." And I was like, "I don't even know what that means." Um, so we started pushing at 12 o'clock, and 2.5 hours later, I finally pushed out our daughter. So
Oh, those
that was,
practice pushes.
yeah, they were rough. And she wanted me to like hold my breath, and I just knew it with my body and like all of that. I was like, if I hold my breath, and I told her that multiple times, I was like, if I hold my breath, I'm going to pass out. And she's like, no, no, you won't. Like, you'll be fine. And I'm like, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm sorry. So I had a little bit of like control in that sense, but um
Hey,
the
you are the
pushing,
authority in that room. You
yeah.
should.
So I pushed back to a few things. Looking back, I should have pushed back on a lot more, but At the end of the day, she came out and she was healthy. She was, a pretty big girl. She was almost 8 pounds. They did like the delayed cord clamping, like I asked. It was actually, she had a pretty short cord actually. So when they put her on, like they were supposed to put her on my chest, but she could only go to like my belly button. And I tried to like pull her up, and my midwife was like, "Don't tug on her. You have a short cord. Like, I don't need you pulling out your placenta." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'll just pat her on my belly, I guess."
Yes.
And then, within a few minutes, they cut the cord, and I don't even remember delivering my placenta, probably because my,
Epidural was so strong you couldn't feel it.
yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, she came up. She started nursing pretty good right away.
Well, that's good. Wait, so she was born technically the day after Thanksgiving.
Correct. She was born Friday morning at 2:30.
There you
Yeah.
go.
So I missed all my turkey dinners. I
Man.
missed all of it.
Did
So
you get leftovers though?
we didn't get leftovers, but my in-laws brought us like a 30 count of chicken minis, which was definitely worth it in the long run.
Thanksgiving
I
chicken
took this.
minis.
Yeah. But yeah, my daughter, she came out and she pooped and peed on me within a few minutes.
Oh, well,
Um,
those work.
and the midwife was like, "Well, she probably just lost a few ounces, but the first poop's out of the way. That's great." And I was like, "Cool. Can I take a shower now?" But all in all, it wasn't the birth that I wanted, but looking back, I'm like, she came out healthy, I was healthy. We didn't end in a C-section, which was one of my biggest fears. Not that C-sections are, the women who have them, I'm sure they need them, but I've heard a lot of women who do epidurals and then pitocin, and the heart rate starts to fluctuate. And so I remember like throughout the labor just being like, "Jesse, like, how's her heart rate? Is her heart rate okay? Like, is she doing okay?" And he was like, "Yeah, she's doing fine." And I would just remember praying out loud, like, "God, like, keep her safe, keep me safe." And like, so I was just, once she came out, I was like, "Okay, it's done. It's over." So
So how was your postpartum?
all in all, postpartum was pretty good. She like I said, she was born right after Thanksgiving, so we got all the newborn snuggles into December and Christmas, which is just my favorite thing. I love Christmas. I was born on Christmas, so having a little baby to snuggle with during Christmas was perfect.
Oh,
Um, yeah, so those first like 2 or 3 months were just full of snuggles and not like challenging for sure, but she was pretty good at, she would wake up every 3 hours, nurse, and then go right back to sleep. She wasn't super fussy. Um, she was a really good baby. She was happy a lot of the time. So those first few months made it pretty easy. I think the harder part for me postpartum was like that 4 to 6 month mark,
yeah.
when it was like she was getting a little bit more active, trying to figure out sleep schedules. And I had so many people around me who had had babies either before me or right after me, and they had babies, who would go down at 7 o'clock at night and sleep until 7 a.m. and had two perfect naps during the day. And here, my 6 month old would take two decent-ish naps and be up at 5:30 first thing in the morning. And I'm
Mm.
like, "Who are you?" Like, you're not following any of these like sleep blogs that I'm reading. So I definitely had to take a breath and just be like, okay, God is in control of everything. And that means sleep for this little baby. So I can't force her to sleep. Took a couple of prayers for me to relax into that and rest that she was getting the sleep that she needed, and he was taking care of her in that regard. So
I can relate. We've had two of those. I mean, we've had both. Okay, I should say we've had both of those. Our first would sleep. Now, she was never a great napper, but she would sleep from like when she was like 6 months old. Probably she'd fall asleep at like 6 p.m. for the night and wake
mhm,
up at 7 a.m. the next morning, like
yeah.
like an angel. And then our son would get up every hour and a half all night long
Mhm,
still and be up at 5:30 every morning no matter what, and he did that for
yep.
years. Like
Yeah.
he's 8 years old now, and he is just now getting to the point where he'll sleep past like 7 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. Different kids, they are wired differently.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wish I knew, like, if there was something I could do while they were in the womb to make them sleep until 8 a.m. I'm like, what
I
can
would
I
do it.
do?
Yes. Do it in a heartbeat.
So, how long was it then? I always feel like I make moms think way too hard when they have to do this math. I'm like, well, how long between when your last one was born and you got pregnant with your next one? Like,
Yeah.
but because their brains usually can't think like that.
No,
So,
it's fine. I actually wrote it down. We were 16 months. So
okay.
Hadley was about 16 months. And we had thought about wanting them close together. Um, my husband, he's one of four siblings. He's the youngest, and all of his siblings are within like 15, 14 months of each other.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah. So when the older one was like 6-ish months, 7 months, she got pregnant with the next.
Wow.
And I was like, well, we're not doing that age gap. Um, so
Especially
we
four in
we
a row.
yeah.
That's a
I mean,
lot of littles.
she's a Wonder Woman. Like she pulled it off great. Um, and so yeah, we wanted to at least wait till she was a year. That was our goal. And then we tried in February, but nothing happened. And then we tried in March, or whenever the dates were, and we got pregnant. So according to my husband, we are 2 for 3 in trying. So 66% is a pretty good stat.
Jesse.
I know. He loves numbers and stats. So he was like, make sure you put that in there. I was like, okay.
2 for 3, Jesse. 2 for 3.
Yeah, 2 for 3. Um, and yeah, it kind of felt uneventful in the comparing it to Hadley because we weren't running around getting pregnancy tests or whatever. It was pretty much the same as like, okay, I'm a couple days behind. Like, let's take a test. We took a test and we were like, okay, we're pregnant. Like we were kind of planning more so for this one than we were with the first. So it
Yeah.
was a little more expected, but still exciting nonetheless.
So, how did that pregnancy go? Were you just as sick in the beginning?
No, that that was a fantastic pregnancy. Um,
Wow. Really?
I told Jesse, I was like, if I could guarantee this pregnancy, we would have a lot of children. Like it would be dangerous.
Do you feel like you did anything differently to make that happen, or do you feel like it just happened?
I feel like it just happened. I definitely feel like I was eating a little bit more healthier,
Hmm.
like more fruits and veggies versus like, the cookout and stuff. Um, but other than that, it really wasn't a ton different. And I hear you too, and I hear you. Yeah, so I don't think I changed really anything. And we didn't know. Like with our first, we found out that we were having a girl, but we waited until birth for the second. And I was really exhausted the first trimester, which part of me is like, okay, pregnant plus toddler, like that just leads to exhaustion.
Yeah.
And then, like, second trimester, third trimester, everything, like, I didn't have any weird things going on. I threw up twice, and one was because we had the stomach bug.
Oh,
So it
wow.
was like a very different pregnancy, which I was very thankful for because I don't know how I could have dealt with the same sickness with running around with my toddler. Like, that
Yeah.
just would have been overwhelming.
It's hard.
Mhm.
Definitely hard.
Yeah, I hear stories about women who have HG, and I'm like, I just had the average run of the mill sickness that first pregnancy. I can't fathom an HG pregnancy. Like I have so much sympathy and empathy for those women because I'm like, you guys are warriors. Like
Mhm.
it truly is amazing that women get through pregnancy with HG.
It really, really is.
Hmm.
Okay. So, second time around, did
Hmm.
you go back to the same practice? Did you have any different kind of care? Did you like plan any differently, prepare any differently? Did you have a different vision? Like, what was different and what was the same about this next one?
Yeah, so we still stayed on the hospital birth route, but my insurance didn't cover the hospital that we gave birth at the first time. So we had to look into getting to a different hospital. So I found a different practice that they were a medical practice, but I could just tell by their website information and from reviews and women that had already gone there that they were more in like the not holistic, but like they were definitely more of the route of wanting natural things.
Hmm.
And so when I went for my first intake, I was like asking things of like, what's your take on the glucose test that I have to do, and what's your take on having like a natural birth and things like that. And they kind of were just like, you can do other options for the glucose tests, like the fresh test and things like that. You can
Mm-hmm.
do we really encourage women if they want to go all natural. Like we won't bring up any like pain med conversations while you're in labor, that kind of thing. So they were like really on board even from my like 6, 8 week appointment. So that was
Nice.
like definitely a godsend. Yeah, we went to that new OB. It was a little further away, but it was kind of nice sometimes because it was like a 30-minute drive. And if I didn't have my older daughter, it was a nice, peaceful 30-minute quiet ride. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, all in all, it went, the care was pretty good. Like I said, we didn't find out with this pregnancy if we were having a boy or girl. So the sonographer was like very concerned of like getting all the angles without showing us. So that was like super sweet. She was like, okay, close your eyes, put your hands over your eyes so that I can like find baby and know what position they're in before you guys even see them. And so I was like,
Yeah.
that's really sweet. Like, that's like a super big step. Like, to me, it was. So,
Yeah. No, that is because sometimes, like, when you put the ultrasound on there, like, immediately it's like on the genitals. Like,
yeah.
and you're like,
And
oh,
you're
I
just
know what
like,
that is.
yeah. So it was really sweet. And every provider that I met was pretty much on board with everything. I brought in, oh, one thing we did differently was we took your birth class. Um, I had a friend who did a podcast with you, and I like was listening to her stories, and then I like found your website and was like, Jess, she does birth classes. Like, this is definitely up our alley. Like, she's Christian based. Like, she gives medical stuff, but she's also like going to teach us other things. Like, we have to take this. And he was like, okay, let's do it. And so I want to say we were halfway through pregnancy when did
Yeah,
we
it was
take
an
the test?
August class and you were due in December.
Yeah. So definitely a lot sooner
Yeah.
than the first go around. And after your class, I was very set on an unmedicated birth. And so was Jesse. He was like, this is doable. We are doing it. Like, he was very, let's go get it. And so to prep for the labor, towards the end, probably like 32-ish weeks or so, I was doing like nightly stretches, trying to like relax my pelvic floor as much as I could. What else did we do? Oh, I like memorized scripture to like recite to myself during contractions. I was praying for a labor that was going to be like communal, like between Jesse and I, but also between us and the Lord. And so it definitely like physically was a different pregnancy, but also the preparation felt more like just open handed and like, okay, Lord, like we're doing all these things, we're prepping for all of this, but at the end of the day, like your will be done. So that was way relaxing than I remember it being the first go round. So,
That's good.
mhm,
That's wonderful. And it's always a good idea to surrender that to God's will. It
mhm,
just makes the world of a difference in your actual labor.
mhm.
So, what happened?
So, well, we didn't know she was a she yet. But so the due date was December 12th. On December 6th, around a little after midnight, our older daughter had woken up. And so Jesse, he was being really sweet. The last like 2 weeks of pregnancy, he was like guarding my sleep as much as he could. So he spent a many a night on the couch with the toddler
Oh,
so I could sleep. And so he got up, he was able to get her back down that night, and I had gotten up, had to pee like always. Got back in bed about 20 minutes or so later, my water broke in bed.
Oh.
And I was like, I was just sitting on the toilet. Like, what? We couldn't have done this at the same time, but it's okay. I was like, okay, this is fine. So I like tapped Jesse. I was like, hey, pretty sure my water just broke. And he like shot up and he was like, what do we do? What do we do? I was like, just get me a towel. We're not going to do anything. It's going to be fine. And so he gets me a towel and I like, okay, well, just go back to sleep. We'll be fine. So we got a couple more hours of sleep in. Around 5:30 is when we I woke up. So I cooked a big breakfast. I was like feeling really good. I wasn't like stressed or anything. Ate some breakfast. I had gotten a TENS unit, and so I put that on.
Were you
And
having contractions?
I were, but they were pretty mild.
Okay.
Like they were nothing compared to what I had had for the first labor. So I was like, okay, well, let's just put the TENS unit on, just go ahead and get that together. And so I was like walking around, chilling. Around 6:30, my daughter woke up. She came in there, and I have this like really sweet video of she loved talking to my belly, and so I had this really sweet video. It's like today's baby day, like the baby's coming, and she was like, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, "Can you tell baby that you love him?" And she, from the get go, was convinced that it was going to be a baby sister, and she said like, "Oh, I love you, baby sister," or something like that. So that was like a super sweet moment of, okay, this is like my last time with just her. Like,
Yeah.
I'm bringing home another human in the next like day or two. So this is going to be interesting. Um, so once it got to be like 8:39, I called my OB office and was like, hey, my water broke around like 1. I'm fine in terms of like contractions and pain and all of that. And they were like, okay, well, you labor at home as long as you want. Just try to get to the hospital by like 1-ish, 2. So that way it's like the 12-hour mark of my water
So not
breaking.
really as long as you want, but just
Right. So it's like you can labor for a couple more hours, but try your best to get here by like 1:30. And I was like, doable, completely doable. So we got Hadley taken care of with we fed her lunch and Jesse was out running some errands. She went to go stay with her grandparents. And I mean, I was like still feeling pretty good. I was like, all right, well, let's just head on to the hospital. So we get there and we check in, and the nurse that comes to our room, just she was amazing, like such a godsend. We had worship music playing, and she was like, this is my kind of birth vibe. Like, this is great. And we started talking about, whoever artist was playing and stuff like this. I was like, okay, Jesus, I see you doing some fun things here. Um, and let's see. So around like 2:30, the midwife comes in and checks on me. Um, and when she came to check in on me, I told Jesse, I was like, I don't want to know. She can tell you how dilated I am, but I don't want to know. And he was like, okay, deal. So come to find out, I didn't know at the time, but I was 4 centimeters dilated around 2 in the afternoon. And he was like, okay, let's do this. So we were like walking back and forth in the room. We were swaying. I was like squatting in between contractions. I was like just staying very active. And then it came to a point, well, I kept checking the clock, which was frustrating. And so I was like, put something over the clock. Like, I can't deal with it. So, literally, one of the baby blankets that we brought to the hospital, he just draped it over the big clock. And so I don't really know when stuff happened, but I have a general idea. So, hopefully, that's okay.
that's fine.
um, so, we did the first check around 2, and they came back maybe like 2-ish hours later. And they were really good about letting me like not wear the monitors. They kind of were like, okay, let's just put them on you for 10 minutes, check on baby, check on you, and then we'll take them back off. So that was good. Like she did that like every 2-ish hours, which I was really thankful for. Um, So probably around like 4-ish or so, Jesse I was getting tired. I was sitting in the bed, but it was kind of like in a throne position.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and I was just like every time a contraction would come, I would like breathe and like recite my scripture. And I was just like, Jesse, I'm so tired. I just can't do this. And so he let me sit like that for, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes to an hour. And then after that, he was like, okay, we've got to move you. You've been in the same position. Like everything we learned from the class was like, you have to keep changing. We have to get
Right.
things
Stay
going.
active. Yeah.
hmm And so I had gotten a cervix check, probably a little bit after that. And I was at a 6. And I don't know why, but that felt really defeating. Looking back now, I'm like, it's been 12 hours. The fact that I'm at a 6 is like really good,
Well,
actually.
and it only been a couple hours since you've been checked. So did you decide to find out the dilation the second time then?
Yes. So
Okay.
I was like, I want to know where we're at. And so yeah, I found out at 6 and he was like, okay, this is great. We're on that like upward trajectory. Like, let's get you moving. And so something about what he said just like put me into like a weird trance. Like not a trance as in like voodoo, but just I like got in the zone pretty much. So we like transitioned to the bathroom. I was like sitting on the toilet backwards and I was like not making any sound. I wasn't like tensing my body or anything. I was just like working through the contractions and like he'll tell you like I was in the zone. Like I didn't make any noises or anything. Did that for probably 45 minutes, went into the shower, was like sitting with the shower. I could tell they were picking up, so I started to get more like grunty, moany kind of thing. And it was really funny. The nurse came in and she had told or we had told her, we was like, we're having this baby tonight. And she was like, great. Well, my shift ends at 7. So like let's have this baby before 7. And she did. She stayed with us the whole night. But sorry, that was a complete side note. She was trying to check on the baby. That's where we were. I was in the shower and she was like trying to find the heartbeat with the monitor just to like double check on. She's like, okay, baby's doing good. I started to like dry heave a little bit and I like opened my eyes and found Jesse. I was like, this baby is coming out. Like it is happening
When you were in the shower?
when I was in the shower. Yeah.
Nice.
And he was like, okay, okay. And so they got like I like walked out of the shower and Jesse was like, well, like, how do you want to stand? Where do you want to be? And I was like, I want to be like on my knees. And so I like just instinctively like crawled up on the bed and they wanted to do another like check on me just to make sure I was like fully dilated. And I was like, no, I need to push. And my midwife was super sweet. She was like, we need to make sure because if you're not fully dilated and you start pushing, like you could hurt your, like you could bruise your cervix, it could stall out and like all of those things. I was like, okay, fine, check me. And so she checked me and she was like, okay, you're at like a 9. So like let's labor just a little bit longer. Let's get your body just a little bit longer to a 10. Um and so I like was swaying and I had the nurse on one side, I had Jesse on the other side, and they were like pushing my hips. And probably like 10-ish minutes later, I just felt the urge to push. And so I just started pushing. Um, but I wasn't like on all fours, hands and knees. I was like draped over the back of the chair
On your knees. Yeah.
on my knees. Yeah. And so at some point, there was a shift change because it went from being the nurse that labored with me to a different midwife voice because I pushed a couple of times and then I heard the new midwife. She was like, Kelsey, put one of your legs up. So then I was kind of lunging in a sense.
Mhm.
And 2 or 3 pushes later, out came our second daughter.
Yeah, sometimes
So,
when you can just shift the hips like that and make a little bit
mhm.
more room in the pelvis, they can slide out a little bit better.
Yeah, and so she came out pretty fast, and, we found out she was a she. Jesse caught her, and, it was great. It was an awesome birth.
Good.
Yeah.
So how did breastfeeding go with her then?
It she also she pooped and peed on me within a few minutes of life, so 2 for 2 on that one. Um, and she did the same. She pretty much started nursing within the first, like, 20-ish minutes of being
Cool.
out. I felt a lot more confident this go round because I had nursed one before, so, I kinda knew what to not, like, exactly what to do, but it was like muscle memory in a sense.
Yeah.
Um, and so she nursed pretty well, and then as they were getting me cleaned up, the midwife was like, let my placenta deliver before they cut the cord, which that was a strange feeling, like, because
Delivering your
I
placenta without an epidural?
yes. It wasn't, like, painful, but it was just like, "Oh, like, I have to push." I don't know, it was like a weird experience.
Yeah.
Um, it was good, and I was glad that they waited for that, but it was just very different, and she was like, "Yeah, you had an epidural the first time, this is gonna feel different." And I was like, "Okay, cool, just tell me what to do or my body will do it, we'll figure it out." Um, and then she told me, so Josie was born at 7:20, so right after shift change, and the nurse stayed with me, and she came over to my side. She was like, "You did it. Congratulations. Like, the Lord was with you. Thank you for letting me, be a part of this." And I was like, "Thank you so much for your encouragement." And she was like, "So downside is I have to go and you're going to have to stay an extra little bit." So, because my water had broken and I had crossed some threshold of my water being broken for 18 hours or something like that, they needed me to stay an extra 24 hours in the hospital to make sure, like, she didn't get an infection and I didn't get an infection. Um, which at the time felt like dumb, but looking back, it was good because she wasn't clearing the bilirubin for jaundice very well. So that extra time in the hospital kind of gave us a chance to just keep feeding and, like, not having to check, like, be discharged from the hospital and then come back and be separated from her and stuff like that.
Mm.
So it wasn't fun being in the hospital for an extra day, but I much rather would have stayed it then than having her to be kind of all alone if we
Yeah.
were to be discharged. So yeah, you're just talking up a storm, huh? So that was our story for Josie. She's born a little over 8 pounds and she's already gained 5-ish pounds in 3 months.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. She's a big
Aw.
girl.
So what do you feel like God taught you through those experiences?
Um, so much. um, I really feel like the biggest thing was just learning to lean on him. And I know that's kind of like a generically Christian saying, but it truly is just with postpartum anxieties and with just surrendering labor to him the second time. It's like knowing that he is a good God and he's going to be faithful to deliver his promises to us, and leaning into just who he is and knowing that he'll be there. Because the scripture that I memorized talks about his love being like the greatest piece of it, and just even through our suffering, we can always find God. And labor is, I mean, physically it's challenging. I would argue that it's a little bit of suffering, and so is motherhood. And so just finding that piece of joy and faithfulness in Him throughout the experiences is what He's taught me. It's like no matter what, like He's still there, even in the sleepless nights and the hard contractions and the frustrations of sleep training or whatever it may be. he's going to be faithful, and he's going to give you the good gift of children, because they are blessings. And another thing that he's recently taught me was, so one thing that was different about this postpartum was I kind of came into it as like, oh, well, I've like had a kid before. I know what to do. Um, but just seeing how different my girls are between one another, it's like, it's wild. So like nothing changed. Like the genetic pool from me and Jesse is exactly the same. But these girls look completely different. They act completely different. And they're 2 and 3 months old. So it's been reinforcing that like God uniquely designed them in my womb, and he made them to be their own person, and how he's going to use them. So it's like I'm holding on to like, okay, like who are they going to be? Who are these little people going to be in a couple of years? And that's going to be a fun part of parenting. I feel like just waiting to see what the Lord does through them.
Oh, it's super fun. Super fun
Yeah.
finding out who they are as they get older. It is really
Mm-hmm.
cool. Any last advice? Anything else you want to say as we wrap up?
Oh gosh. If you are expecting a child, or you just had a baby, um, or you know someone who's had a baby, like just be there and step in. We've had both meal trains for both girls, and there's been so many moms from our small group that have been like, hey, I'm coming over with a coffee. I don't even have to talk to you, but for 5 minutes, but I want you to have this coffee because I know you had a rough night. And just showing up and just saying like, I see you in the struggles, and it's like in the long run, it'll all be okay.
Yeah.
With coffee in hand, but that's because I love coffee. Now, if someone else is a tea fan, bring them tea. But yeah, just lean into help when it's given, and don't be afraid, because it truly does take a village of, your church family, your biological family, friends, the community. It's a big thing to care and uphold these children. So just reach out for help and take it when it's given.
Well said. People don't realize, I feel like, and sometimes maybe until they're in it, how much, or maybe until someone like crosses that threshold and does help them, how much they realize they really needed it. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. You can reach me at Surrendered Birth Services on Instagram, or email me at contact@surrenderedbirthservices.com. Be sure not to miss an episode by hitting the follow button. Also, we'd love for you to leave a written review of the show so that more people's births and lives can be changed by the love of Jesus and the empowerment of accurate birth education. If you really enjoyed this episode in particular, please take a screenshot of it and post it to your Instagram story, tagging Surrendered Birth Services. If you would like to be a guest on the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, please click the link in the episode show notes to fill out your interest form. Also, if you're interested in taking my childbirth classes, birth consultations, or having me as your birth doula, please click on the link in the show notes to take you to my website for online and in-person options. Just as a reminder, this show is not giving medical advice, so please continue to see your personal care provider as needs arise. We hope you have a great week, and remember, learn all that you can, make the best plans, and then leave it in God's hands. I'll never forget, I was early postpartum with my latest baby. And I mean, it had to be within like a week or two of his birth. And I woke up from like a late morning nap, and the kids were gone and my husband was gone, and they were just all gone. And I get this text that said, hey, wanted to let you keep sleeping. Took the kids to the zoo. Like, see you later. And I'm like, the zoo? Like,
that's a big
you mean
outing.
the zoo that's like 45 minutes from here? Like, where you're going to need to like pack strollers, water bottles, jackets, snacks, lunches, diapers. I mean, like, all like, did you take all that stuff with you? Like, did you think about that? Did you think about nap schedules? Are you prepared? And he's like, no, I'm meeting my friend Chris there and his kid too. Like, I'm like, that's such a dad move.
Like, we'll figure it out. They'll be
Yeah.
fine.
And I'm like, okay.